Dr. Ted Brown 呢，是我们纽约州立发育障碍研究院的前院长，他也是著名的遗传学家，他是第一个发现孤独症和脆腺 X 综合征有关联的第一个人。他就是在自闭症的研究上面发表了数百篇的专业论文，顶级专家。Dr. Brown, welcome.
Thank you.
As an expert in genetics, I would like to ask you, what's your opinion about the genetic part related to autism?
Well, we don't really understand the cause of autism, but we think the studies have shown that about the genes that do contribute to autism, that it accounts for maybe 60 to 80% of the inheritance of the cause of autism. But there's an environmental factor as well, so it's both genetic and environment. Among the genes that have been identified, Fragile X is one, tuberous sclerosis is one, neurofibromatosis is one. These are various genes. There are some 200 genes that have been associated with it. I got interested in autism early on because of an interest in Fragile X syndrome.
Yes.
And we found that we reported the first report that it was associated with autism, and we found that about 50% of the boys that came to see us with this genetic cause of disability had autism, were diagnosed with it. So we've continued to do research into understanding the causes. We think that in general, the brain doesn't develop quite normally. The connections aren't made between different parts of the brain in a normal way. And that's what creates autism. And autism can be from very low functioning to fairly high functioning.
That's right.
And it's quite variable. And if you've known one child with autism, you've known one child with autism.
So autism, their clinical symptoms share a lot of similarity with Fragile X children?
Yes, the children that have Fragile X syndrome, particularly the boys, because it's primarily an X-linked syndrome, they have a lot of anxiety, they have a lot of problems with social interactions, and they have a lot of repetitive movements are repetitive, and this is kind of the core features of having autism. This is social problems and repetitive problems that the child has. It doesn't, about 1/3 of the children that have autism have an IQ that's in the normal range. It's above 70, so it doesn't have to be intellectual disability. In fact, Elon Musk went on Saturday Night Live and said he had autism.
Yes.
And we think people like him, perhaps Albert Einstein, had autism.
Yes.
We know that it runs in families. If you have identical twins, if one child is born with autism and the identical twin has it about
90%.
80 to 90% of the time. So it's highly concordant. Whereas if it's just a fraternal twin, like a boy and a girl, or just two boys that aren't, biologically the same, then it's more like 40 to 50%, or even 30%.
The thing is, it seems if the twin studies, one has autism, another one has a 90% possibility to get autism. It seems there's a very obvious genetic trait. But why we cannot find it's hundreds of genes involved, so they're related to the risk of autism, but we cannot find a single gene.
Well, it's not probably one single cause, because it's anything that disrupts the normal growth of nerves and connections of nerves, and these could be multiple pathways, and there are many genes that could affect that. And then you have a genetic and an environmental factor as well. Sometimes certain drugs, or prematurity, affect brain development.
So from because it's like from the very severe autism to very sort of light symptoms, because it's a spectrum. So they could be caused by different reasons. Can be actually a totally different pathogenic mechanism involved.
That's right. Well, we think of autism or autism spectrum disorder. It's a behavioral diagnosis.
That's right.
It's a psychiatric.
It's not a laboratory diagnosis.
It's not a blood test that we can do that to show it. So it's like anything that leads to that same behavior could be, the cause of it. And that's why it's so, difficult to find a treatment that's effective.
That's right.
We can't offer genetic engineering to change, but perhaps in the future we'll be able to correct the Fragile X mutation. And then for that specific condition, the autism might disappear. But, and again, treatment in early stages of life are probably important, because the brain, matures, and if it hasn't had the right stimulation during that development phase, it's going to be hard to catch up.
Yes, and also early diagnosis basically is the key for, treating the autism.
The best treatments that we know of today, there's, behavioral treatments. Applied behavior analysis is one, kind of the gold standard. But there are other treatments, the Denver model, floor time, these others have been shown to, if you get the child between ages 1 and 4 and start the treatment, then there's good evidence that they make really good progress and achieve a good outcome.
But after 4, when the older, if you apply the behaviors...
Applied behavioral analysis still can be given at any age. It's kind of a correcting behavior, but it's probably the brain is most plastic in those early ages of 1 to 4.
See. So what is your suggestion for the best, approach to help the autistic kids and the family?